So there was a debate between a vegan guy, Dr. Joel Kahn, and a guy named Chris Kresser, who is pro low carb. This is on the Joe Rogan podcast. This is a few months ago. But one thing stuck in my mind from that discussion, and it was from Dr. Kahn. And what he said was the physiology is the same. Basically, his message is eat plants, meat is bad. And if you veer from that, then your health will falter. And we already know this. We know the physiology, and the physiology doesn't change. That's what he said. And it hit me in the face like this because it's not a true statement. And if I was there in the recording room, I would have jumped in and said, no, there are multiple physiologies that we all go through depending on what we consume. And so I sat down today and I wrote down, there are 6 that I wrote down off the top of my head from all the studying that I've been doing. So one is ketosis, where your body takes fat, converts it to a water-soluble chemical, and uses that as energy. Another one is just simply fat burning without turning it into a ketone. Another one is glycolysis, where your body's burning sugar. Number 4 is lactate, where your body's using lactate, which is a byproduct of exercise, and it's also a byproduct of burning carbohydrates. And it's okay to burn lactate for a short period of time, and if you don't have any oxygen, because you just sprinted and you ran out of breath and you're trying to suck in air, you're breathing hard to bring oxygen back in your body should convert from lactate fermentation back to normal glycolysis or fat burning with the introduction of oxygen. So lactate fermentation is okay for a short period of time. If you're burning it for a long period of time, that's cancer. That's chronic disease. That's diabetes. That's anxiety. That's heart disease. Okay, another way our body makes energy is alcohol fermentation. So imagine an alcoholic. They're always drinking. Their body's fermenting the alcohol. That's their fuel. It's almost like a fine line, if you will, between alcohol and sugar. So I've talked about this before, but Alcoholics Anonymous, they're encouraging the participants to use sugar in their coffee, etc., to feed their adrenals and to feed their cells what their cells want to burn, which is alcohol and or sugar. But anyway, so alcohol fermentation, that's another way our body makes energy. And our ancestors would eat fruit and in the late summer, early fall, for example, depending on the climate. And I have an aunt and uncle that they planted pear and apple trees in their backyard in Ohio. And there's times when their ground is just covered in pears and apples, and most of them are fermenting right there on the ground, and the bees and the wasps are sitting on the fruit, soaking up the sugar. But imagine our ancestors who were hungry. They come upon an orchard of pear trees or apple trees. They're just picking the fruit up off the ground, eating it, and they're getting drunk. So yeah, our bodies are designed to ferment alcohol for a short period of time. And alcohol has a medicinal effect, although that can be easily overestimated. Okay, and then the last one is sunlight. So the sun imparts photons and electrons right into the body. And in the presence of manganese, the mineral, the body will split hydrogen from oxygen. So water gets split. The body takes the oxygen, sends it right to the mitochondria, and creates fuel that way. And Dr. Jack Kruse has a lot of information on that. I'm an amateur when it comes to Dr. Jack Kruse's information related to sun and energy, etc. Although I've studied a ton of physics and photons and stuff like that. So anyways, it's the 6th way our body makes energy. So there you go. It's not just burning sugar. We make energy in many different ways. Okay, so having said that, there's one other thing that when Dr. Kahn does debates, he does a lot of debates, and he always throws around the fact that he's a medical doctor. And there was a debate with him versus Dave Asprey at Google, and they played that. They recorded it, and they have it on YouTube. Google owns YouTube. And he threw that around like, I'm the only medical doctor in the room. Okay, number one, because you're a medical doctor doesn't mean that you're smart. And it doesn't mean that you study. And it doesn't mean that you're relevant to the current information that's available to us now. So having said that, I've had people accuse me of pretending that I'm a medical doctor. Let it be known, there's no way I want to be associated with the medical field. I'm a chiropractor. I'm super happy to be a chiropractor. The chiropractic field license is wide open. Lots of body work, manual work with the hands, and then all the nutrition. The nutrition field and potential for healing is far greater than all the drugs put together. So, and medical doctors in the United States kill 400,000 Americans a year, including properly prescribed drugs and properly performed surgeries. So, I'm a chiropractor, not a medical doctor. I'm not trying to pretend it. Okay, next thing I want to say is today's Friday, and on Wednesday, I had a fantastic clinical day. And in particular, there were two patients who have been with me for a while, and they were both doing ketosis very well. Their ketogenic diets were working very well, and they had benefits from it. And then on their own, they started fasting. And I encouraged one in particular, but the other one did it on his own. And they had much greater benefit from fasting than the ketogenic diet. So the ketogenic diet originally in the 1920s, it at the Mayo Clinic was called the diet that mimics fasting. And now we have Dr. Valter Longo. He has the fasting mimicking diet. But the point is, the word mimicking, it doesn't mean it's exactly the same. The ketogenic diet is not, you don't get the same results with that as you do fasting. It's like a resemblance. It mimics it, but it's not identical. It's not the same. So fasting is actually more powerful. And so the guy I'm want to talk about, his main concern is premature ventricular contractions, PVCs in his heart. And they're, they can be scary. And now he had done ketogenic dieting for over a year. And then he did 5-day water only fasts. And then he did a 30-day hard dry fast, meaning no water, no showering, no washing your hands, no brushing your teeth, hard dry fast. A soft dry fast is you can take a shower, you can brush your teeth, you can wash your hands, but you're not drinking it. So he did it for a hard dry fast for 30 hours. He said by far that was the most powerful thing that he's ever done. It basically fixed his PVCs. It got rid of his wrist pain that he had for a long time. And we were on the phone together. He's just saying how good he felt after that 30-hour hard dry fast. So he went from ketogenic dieting to water only fasts to hard dry fast. And he got better and better. And it was the last one that he had just completed and was absolutely thrilled with it. So the woman I want to mention, she had been doing the ketogenic diet very well for many months. And then she did 1 4-day water only fast. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of it, but she had a symptom every morning for 50 years. And after the 4-day water only fast, it was gone. And that was weeks ago. And it's still gone. So it was during that time when the body had no food, it took the time to fix that problem. If you're always eating food all the time, the body's trying to digest the food. It needs a break sometimes. And it needs to be able to go in and fix the things that aren't working right. So give your body a break sometimes. Stop eating food and let your body heal. So now intermittent fasting is where you skip one meal a day. A lot of people start with that. That's very good. Make sure you're eating enough fat and protein to keep you satisfied during those 18 hours so that you're not starving and hypoglycemic and irritable and you can't stand anybody. Okay, so anyways, so the ketogenic diet is not the same as as fasting. They're related, but fasting is more powerful. All right, my next quick thought is about bad breath. Typically, bad breath comes from down here, stomach, intestines. It's dysbiosis. It's the unfriendly organisms in your gut that's creating chemical reactions that aren't normal and then releasing gases in the stomach and intestines that aren't normal. They cause burping, they cause bloating, they cause ulcers, hiatal hernia, acid reflux, heartburn. A lot of those symptoms come from dysbiosis. Now, it could be parasites too. So when you go to a dentist and you say, hey, I have bad breath, what do? They brush your teeth. Okay, that's not it most of the time. It comes from below. So just keep that in mind. I just wanted to share that with you. So let's talk about multiple rounds of fasting and how beneficial it is. I'm going to give you the story of Oscar the dog. So this is over 100 years ago. And this dog, Oscar, was living on a farm in Kansas. And they brought him into a lab to test the premortal state, meaning how to measure if, like the dog, for example, when is it going to start to die when you don't give it food. So they gave it water, and they were measuring various proteins in his urine, and at some point they decided to stop it because these were too high. It was at day 45. So they started feeding him food, and they sent him back to the farm. A year later, the scientists brought him back, and they expected to see the urea, the proteins, start to rise again at 45 days, but it didn't happen at 45 days. It was day 103. So over 100 days without food, the dog was able to jump over the 3-foot fence to get into his kennel. Oscar had adapted to a state of starvation. Adaptation, that's super important. His cells got stronger from the first time that he fasted. And what we're going to do is we're going to go straight to 1911. Here's this research study, Fasting Studies 6, and 1912, received for publication January 13th, 1912. This is about Oscar the dog. So they brought, now at this stage, Oscar was 26 kilograms. So multiply that by 2.2, now we're talking easily over 50 pounds. And they fed him only water. And he went from February, where is this? He went 117 days, from February 6th to June 2nd. Now, here's what's interesting about this. Oscar was doing much better than the other dogs because he had already fasted twice. And he continued to jump out of his cage up to and including the 101st day of fasting, and they prevented him from doing that further because they were afraid he was going to injure himself. So in order to avoid injury, he was not permitted to jump into his cage, but he still wagged his tail vigorously and frequently barked when we approached the cage. So he went 117 days. He lost 63% of his body weight. He weighed 9 kilograms. So for the rest of the summer, he went back to the farm, and he was brought back in the fall, and he was found to weigh somewhat more than he did at the commencement of the first fast. He also seemed to be stronger, more energetic, and in better all-around physical condition that he had been before he was subjected to the 117-day fast. So multiple rounds of fasting is super important, and your body gets stronger, and I don't think we give our bodies enough credit. And we're trying to pamper it, and we're trying to eat the same amount of calories every day and get a certain number of nutrients in every day. So basically, we don't give our bodies enough credit. We can fast for a long period of time, and we can feast. There were some Smithsonian scientists that had found some ancient fossilized human poop, and they investigated it, and there was fur and feathers and bones from the animals that they ate. So what the Smithsonian scientists decided to do was to try it on themselves. They took animals, and they just crushed them with a rock to break up the bones on the inside. And they ate the animals that way, including all the skin and the fur and the bones, the skeleton, the skull, the vertebrae, the legs. And this is the 1960s. And the scientists then collected their own poop for 3 days and looked at it. And the vertebrae of these small animals were all gone, except for maybe one, because the stomach pH is so low, it's very acidic, 1.0, 1.5. Most of the skull was dissolved, and yeah, the fur came out intact, because we're not designed to digest fur or hair, our own hair. So our ancestors would do that, hunt the small animals, crush them all up, and then just eat it like that, including the skin, the fur, and the feathers too. So These are points that I've learned. I wanted to share them with you. I hope you enjoyed it.